Postgame continues here on HQ, where it was a predetermined outcome.
It really was.
About 10 minutes into this game, here's a Ty Johnson touchdown. And the route was on right before half. Allen and the Bills victorious in a big way, 47-10 over the winless Jags. Joe Musso alongside Ryan Wilson, Bryant McFadden joining the conversation as well, guys. And I don't know if you want to start.
Oh, boy.
I mean, you watching anything good on TV these days? There's nothing to report on the Jacksonville front. As you said, ships passing in the night, and I think one team has fully arrived, the window's still fully open, and the other could be roll credits. Let's start with the positive here.
Yeah.
What made Buffalo so effective over this 60 minutes?
Well, this is an easy one. You didn't have to watch the game. If you had to guess, you would guess Josh Allen, and that's where the conversation starts. But we talked about it pregame. The offensive line has been a lot better. The running game has been much more balanced with Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator who took over last year. And the defense is playing really well. The concern with the defense coming in was at the edge rush position. Greg Rousseau and Von Miller. Von Miller's coming off that second ACL, playing like a veteran who's dominating as a situational pass rusher. And Greg Rousseau has been playing really well this season as well. But from top to bottom, in the secondary issue, Damar Hamlin. They had questions at safety after losing Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. Damar Hamlin comes up big today. But if you were looking to impress your girlfriend at the homecoming game, this was the game to do it. And we saw it for the first 30 minutes, B-Mac. And can I ask B-Mac a question?
Please.
B-Mac, I want to ask you, as someone who played for a Steelers team that rarely found themselves on the wrong end of the scoreboard, I don't remember there being a situation where you guys got blown out, but what's the conversation when you don't show up in a five-star matchup game, which is a primetime game? How are you explaining that to yourselves in the locker room, and how are you bouncing back from this? Because this team looks like it's quit 3 weeks into the season.
I mean, you got to just credit that to being having a bad day at the office. And the issue with that, everyone saw it because, to your point, it was on the biggest stage, Monday Night Football. Yes, there were 2 ball games happening, but you on a primetime stage, and you just didn't have your best effort. Now, luckily enough for me, to your point, we didn't have that many of these games like we saw from Jacksonville tonight. But when we did, we didn't want to watch the film. We wanted to get over this as soon as possible. But it's hard because you have to really embrace and look at this defeat for an entire week until you get ready for your next ball game. But one thing I know about really, really good teams, guys, in any professional sport, but when it comes to the game of football, a real good team doesn't have back-to-back bad weeks. That doesn't happen. So for Jacksonville, this was a very, very important opportunity that they allowed to squander through their fingers in trying to get into the winning column. But they better find a way to correct their wrongs, because the things that we saw surface in the negatives for them tonight, they will continue to see until they get them right.
I mean, it's getting worse. 17 points to lead off against the Dolphins, 13 points against the Browns, 10 points on this night. The offense is non-existent. The quarterback just got broken off in the biggest way ever. I mean, you're talking about more than a $250 million quarterback who has to answer to something. Mac, I do want to take you back to the Bills here for a moment, because Josh Allen, so much is made throughout his career about his inability to protect the football. He's not giving it away this year. It's going to make this team even harder to defeat. But prior to the season, so many people saying the window's closed, they don't have the talent around him anymore. What has kept this team and made this team even more effective than we've seen them in past versions?
The offense seemed to be a little simpler than what we've seen in years past. Josh Allen is not pressing the issue when it comes to throwing the football. He's just allowing things to happen naturally, and that's why we're seeing clean football coming from Josh Allen. When you look at the pass catches tonight, I mean, what we saw, I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys caught passes from Josh Allen. 10 players caught passes from Josh Allen. That's a great way to distribute the football around to all of your skilled guys. And to Ryan's point, you asked what was the difference. The Buffalo Bills had the best player in the world on their team, and that's who Josh Allen is right now. In 3 weeks of play, he's playing better than any NFL player in the league right now, and he's doing so with a lot of names that are not particularly household names. And that's the thing that about great quarterbacks. They make the guys around them look better, look much better, right? So for me, when you look at what Josh Allen is doing and how efficient this offense has been, this relationship between Josh Allen and Joe Brady has worked. It has been awesome to see flourish before our eyes. And let's see, can he sustain this level of play? Because up until this point, the issue for Josh Allen has been turnovers, the untimely turnovers. So far this season, he's got that out of his game plan.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, and B-Mac brings up a good point, and again, B-Mac had experience with this with Antonio Brown, one of the best wide receivers when he played, but now that Stephon Diggs is gone, maybe that's taking the pressure off Josh to distribute the ball to guys who aren't named Stephon Diggs. And no disrespect to Stephon Diggs, because he's incredibly important to what they were doing in recent years, but you do that. You couple that with a running game that's working, and you couple that with Josh Allen not turning the ball over. And by the way, we're now 3 games into the season. The Jaguars defense has yet to get a turnover. That also doesn't help the win-loss record there. It feels like, to B-Mac's point, that Josh Allen is arguably the best player in the NFL. And I would argue that even though the Chiefs are 3-0, I think the Bills right now are the better football team.
We're trying to figure out who's going to be the team to beat the Chiefs when rubber meets road around January time. And this looks like it has all the makings of building that direction. 9 touchdowns, a lone fumble. It's been sacked twice this season, both coming in week 1. Hasn't been sacked since week 1. It's all going right for Buffalo. They will be tested again on the road in week 4, primetime Sunday night against the Ravens. But there is something to be answered. Someone has to answer for this type of performance, the lack of preparation that we saw out of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I have a hard time sitting up here talking about people's jobs, who deserves them, who does not, but it feels like every 18 months there's a hard reset on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Are we approaching another hard reset in your eyes, Ryan?
B-Mac, it doesn't feel great the way this is unfolded. And you talk about bouncing back from one tough performance. This team has lost 8 in a row. Is that right, Joe? 8
regular season matchups in a row, and they missed the playoffs. So, yes, 8 in a row. No qualifier needed.
For Trevor Lawrence, they won in Week 17 against a Panthers team that had Bryce Young out there, and they set their starters. The Jaguars did. That's nothing to feel great about. Again, there are no moral victories in the NFL. So where is the bouncing back from poor performances? You have to go back to last Thanksgiving to find a game in which they won. And again, to your point, I don't necessarily want to say people should stand up and get fired, but the proof is in the pudding, and what we're seeing is some truly terrible, uninspired football. And B-Mac, I don't think it's unfair to say that it felt like 30 minutes into this game, the Jaguars are ready to get back on the plane and fly back home to Florida.
I will say qualifier is needed there as well. Trevor Lawrence, those consecutive starts, not the Jacksonville Jaguars themselves, but it's your big name, big number quarterback. He's got to bring some wins to the table, and it doesn't get a whole lot easier, Mac, as they stare down Houston ahead. You talked about flushing the tape, moving on to the next one, but you haven't been able to do that 3 times over now. How do you do it going into Houston? What needs to change? How do you adjust? Where do you find that spark if you are the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Your quarterback has to play better, guys. Let's start there. Right. One thing I know about the game of football, if you don't have a good quarterback or a quarterback playing good, it feels like you have to drive 150 yards to score a touchdown. We saw that in tonight's matchup. Look how easy it looked with Josh Allen scoring touchdowns. It felt like he only had to drive 50 yards. But Jacksonville, they got to go 200, 150. So it starts there. And when you get paid the type of money that Trevor Lawrence is getting paid, no excuses. No excuses. You got to get the job done, right? They added some weapons. You lost a few pieces, but they added some pieces into play, and you're not getting the job done. Into that stat that you guys mentioned, his last 8 starts, 8 losses. 8 losses, right? Did I hear that correctly?
That's right.
8 consecutive starts, finishing in the loss column.
That's unacceptable. Now, to your point, Joe, how do they right their wrongs? I don't know if it starts next week against Houston, because Houston got kicked in the mouth. You know they're trying to get back in the winning column, and you have to travel to Houston, right? And you have to play against another outstanding quarterback who didn't have his best outing a week ago in C.J. Stroud. So you talk about resetting the button in Jacksonville. They just kind of did so when they fired the entire defensive staff from a year ago. Right? So that was like, okay, that was the issue. Let's get rid of everyone on that staff. Let's bring in a new staff, and let's see, can we play better football? No, you're not playing better football. You're actually playing worse. And the season just started. And this was a team that many felt like could have playoff aspirations, especially in their division, a team that could finish maybe worst case scenario 2 in the division. But right now, even with Tennessee not having a win, having the same record as the Jacksonville Jaguars, they played more inspired football than Jacksonville, and Jacksonville has more to work with. That's unacceptable, and it starts with the coaching, and then it follows with the big money man at the quarterback position in Trevor Lawrence.
History has a way of telling us what's coming next. No team has made the playoffs after an 0-3 start since 2018. We know no team has ever won the Super Bowl after an 0-3 start. There's other things to worry about right now than New Orleans if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it seemed like they were so close yet again just a couple of years ago of getting everything lined up to compete with teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. Not on this night and probably not this season. Let's move back to Buffalo here, guys, and let's move it forward because another big-time, prime-time matchup, Mac. What do you got to do if you're the Baltimore Ravens to slow down this offensive attack led by Josh Allen? Because Baltimore, I won't say back against the wall as they do get that first win of the season, but you don't want to be one and at any point in the year.
Man, listen, man. When I watch Josh Allen play, I oftentimes think about if I was a defender in the meeting rooms getting ready for Josh Allen, how do we slow him down? Like, what do we do? He's extremely tough, so you can't really beat him up and try to get into his head because he welcomes that type of play. He's super athletic. He's strong. He sees the football field well. He might be seeing the football field better than any other year that we've seen with him being the quarterback there in Buffalo. So how do you slow him down? Because even in tonight's matchup, Ryan, it wasn't the same running that we saw against Miami, right, with James Cook. They didn't really run the football a lot, but he just beat them with his arm. So it's like, how can you slow him down? Well, coach, just throw the kitchen sink at him. Just bring it. Like, just because if you sit back, he can buy time, right? He's like a bigger Lamar Jackson with the way he can extend plays, and it's annoying to see. So for Baltimore, they have to play the type of football they played in the first half against Dallas, then the second half against Dallas, right? Because if you get up to a slow start against Josh Allen, it's going to be a long night. So for Baltimore, they got to find a way to just keep him in the pocket. And one thing I would love to see Baltimore do, when you talk about bringing pressure to Josh Allen, a lot of teams bring perimeter pressure, edge pressures. That doesn't get to Josh Allen because now you give him a one-way go in where to run or evade defenders. Why don't you bring some interior pressure? Bring some interior pressure because now you don't necessarily give him a one-way go, but your contain guys got to be disciplined in containment. So you just can't sit back, man. That's a tough question to ask what you do. But I just say, coach, let's just throw everything at them and let's see some of these not unknown wide receivers can live up to the building, but can they answer the call in pressure-like situations?
So you're saying, Mac, you'd rather watch that game in the green room with me than in the film room getting ready for a guy like Josh Allen. That's what I heard there.
Most definitely. I would rather watch it with you, but if I can still get the NFL check for the week
I got you.
and not participate, that would be better.
We'll look into it. They're giving away points. I don't know about money. That was the story of the night here as Buffalo rolls over Jacksonville. 3-0 on one side, 0-3 on the other. Fellas, appreciate the insight as always on this Monday night doubleheader. Historic in some ways, always. Largest win in a game in Bills history, a 37-point berth between they and the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday night, the fourth largest win in franchise history.